Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Well, folks, we are all about learning here at Tony Metro, and let me just tell you, we just had a learning lesson right there. If you guys were just a part of the previous stream that was going and was interrupted, well, that's because I tried to do something cool, play Pete Alonso's home run to open it, and immediately YouTube cracked down on that and said, not so fast. That video doesn't belong to you. So even though I wouldn't have made any money off it anyway, it stopped that stream. So, guys, let's try this again. What is up, everybody? Tony Metro here, in a big night for the New York Mets, but most importantly for Pete Alonso, as Pete has his go-ahead home run of Darryl Strawberry, his record-breaking home run to pass Strawberry on the Mets all-time home run list, as he hits number 253 out to the right center field gap in the bottom of the third inning to stake the Mets to a 5-1 lead. Pete Alonso making some history on a night where the Mets bash 6 home runs, including 2 from him. He has another one later in this game, and the Mets absolutely cruise to a big 13-5 victory over the Atlanta Braves to snap their 7-game losing streak. Huge win for the Mets that they absolutely needed, but definitely one that is going to be memorable because of Pete Alonso making history. Caden in the chat, hey, I'm back. What's up, man? I apologize about that. I didn't think that would be an issue in the previous stream, but YouTube definitely did not take kindly to that. But here we are, and hopefully now we won't have any problems going forward. But a huge night for Pete, and I don't know what was caught on the previous stream, but really, really cool to see. You know, we had Pete come up in 2019 where he immediately was making history as a rookie, setting the National League rookie home run record with 54 home runs that season. And we knew we had a really special player on our hands, as he immediately was already 25% of the way there to Darryl Strawberry's franchise record for home runs, and a record that is not exactly the most impressive, not to disparage Pete or Darryl Strawberry, just in terms of how it stacks up against other major league franchises. It was the 3rd lowest total for any franchise for a single season or a single player franchise home run record. But Darryl Strawberry, of course, leaving the Mets after the 1991 season, and for pretty much 40 years almost, that record stood. And when Pete came up in 2019, like I said, knew we had a really solid player, a prolific power hitter, gets cheated out of 100 games because of the 2020 pandemic season where they only played 60. And yet since he has come into the league, Pete has consistently been one of the best power hitters in the sport. And tonight, he finally etches his name in New York Mets history, not only with number 253, but with 254 as well, as he bops 2 home runs in this game. Francisco Alvarez hits 2 home runs in this game. Cedric Mullins goes deep. Brandon Nimmo with a 3-run homer to give the Mets the lead back after Clay Holmes immediately coughed it up to the Braves the half inning prior, and Brett Beatty even getting in on the action, as again, it is a laugher for the Mets, and they snap that 7-game losing streak in style. They gain a game on the Phillies, who lost tonight to the Reds. Obviously, that means the Mets also stay a game ahead of the Reds in terms of the wild card standing. So an all-around very positive night for the Mets. I mean, I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth, because it has not been a lot of positivity for this team lately. It has been a brutal stretch of baseball. But when you get to see a guy that we've watched his entire career in the orange and blue make history as the most prolific power hitter in this franchise's time, and on top of it, to beat the Braves, who we never can beat, have always owned us and had our number, and to snap this losing streak, it is a good day for the Mets. And that is not something we've been able to say often. So when we can, we just have to take advantage of it. Let's go back to the chat. Absol says, as The Rock famously says, finally, that's right. Finally, the Mets get a win. Finally, they beat the Braves. Finally, this offense breaks out. And what I love most about it, all 13 of the Mets runs tonight coming with 2 outs. And that has been such a problem for this Mets team. It's not just the hitting with the runners in scoring position. It's not just hitting in general. It has been also hitting with 2 outs. We have seen other teams do it against the Mets all year long, but the Mets able to score all 13 of their runs with 2 outs in this game. Not all home runs either. Got a couple blue hits in there as well. You got one from Brandon Nimmo, I believe it was, and from Cedric Mullins there with 2 outs. So really, really nice to see the Mets come through today and just have a laugher of a game to snap this losing streak. Sandman Game says, hi, Tony the Legend and Mookie. I bet Mookie's happy. Mookie's thrilled. He's laying down. He's got one of his bones over there. Famous bones, guys. If you are new to the channel and you are not already subscribed, be sure to do that. Daily Mets content, post-game recap after every Mets game. Be sure to leave this video a like. Really appreciate that. Helps out. And if you want to follow me on any of the other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, links to all of those are in the description of this video. If you want to tip the stream, keep things going, really appreciate that as well. You could do super chats here on YouTube, or you could go to the tip jar. Link to that is also in the description of this video. And again, just like Sandman said, all of that goes to Mookie's Bone Fund. Yes, the 99-pound German Shepherd that you can hear barking in the background right now. He is as hyped for this victory as I am. So really, really good win for the Mets tonight. Not all positive, and we're going to get into it, so let's start talking about it. But first, let me go to the chat. Absol, Nimmo, and Alvarez woke up. Lindor needs to follow suit. You know, that might be the lone part from tonight as far as an offensive standpoint that is not a positive in this game. I would have loved to have seen Francisco Lindor had been one of those 6 homers today. I would have loved to see Lindor break out just the way that Francisco Alvarez did, who, by the way, has just been a complete different hitter since getting recalled from the minor leagues. I would have loved to see Lindor be able to break out, but unfortunately not the case. He does have a couple good swings on this. He lays down the bunt single. You're hoping maybe that's going to be something that'll get him going, just to see a hit in the box score next to his name. But obviously it wasn't like Francisco Lindor came out and was just absolutely raking tonight the way that the rest of this lineup was. But overall, obviously, really, really solid night for the Mets. 16 hits in this game, and of course, 6 of them are home runs. Let me go back to the chat real quick. Sandman Game says, King Cohen was watching Mets. We're like, oh boy, let's do something, LOL. Yeah, the boss is watching. We all gotta get busy, right? When the boss is watching, everybody starts getting real busy, starts picking up things, you know, things that are not a part of their normal job duties, right? But with Cohen sitting in the front row, that was pretty cool to see. That was pretty cool to see Steve Cohen giving a standing ovation in the front row behind home plate to Pete Alonso after hitting number 253, as you can see on your screen right here. So a huge congratulations to Pete. Really awesome to see. Sandman says, Chavez in the corner, big smile, LOL. Yeah, of course, I saw that too. I always can pick out Eric Chavez now just because of how much we have talked and deliberated about him and how we want him fired from this coaching staff. But yeah, I saw that, Sandman. David Schultz says, Holmes to the bullpen. The experiment as a starting pitcher is over this year. Next year, the organization has to concentrate on lengthening the arms of the rotation to 6 or 7 innings. So really interesting, because this comes just a couple of hours after the Mets announced that Frankie Montas will not be making his next start for the Mets in the rotation. That is on Saturday. All the speculation is that it's going to be one of the young guys, either Brandon Sproat or Nolan McLean. If I'm a betting man, I'm probably putting it on Nolan McLean, just FYI, just a little insider tip there for you. But there is a real possibility the Mets could end up calling both of these guys up, because clearly Clay Holmes has run out of gas. Clay Holmes is running on fumes right now. Was he really solid to start this season out in his transition from a reliever to a starter? Absolutely. It went way better than I could have expected, if I'm being totally honest, in terms of Holmes making that transition. But it is clear now, Clay Holmes is not capable of giving you 5 innings. It seems every time he gets into the 4th or the 5th, he runs into that wall, and he cannot find his way through it. Tonight, the Mets jump out to the 5-1 lead. They get the 2-run homer from Francisco Alvarez. They get Pete's record-breaking home run to make it 5-1, and the very next half inning, in the top of the 4th, Clay Holmes struggling to get through the bottom of the Braves lineup. The 7 and 8 hitters doing damage, walking the 9 hitter to load the bases, an RBI fielder's choice to make it 5-4, and then Matt Olson going the other way for the game-tying double that really probably should have been a go-ahead double if not for some really poor base running from Jerks and Profar. And we are just sitting there all thinking, my goodness, when does it end? When do the Mets finally get out of this rut? We had the 5-0 lead on Sunday and blew that game. We had a 5-1 lead just a minute ago, and Clay Holmes goes out there and spits the bit. So I was thinking, man, I just don't know how this is ever going to end. Fortunately, the Bats able to pick him up and give you more than you needed to work with by scoring 13 runs, to the point where the Braves are using a position player to get the final 4 or 5 outs of this game. Man, how good did that feel to finally kick the Braves in the teeth the way they have done to us over so many of these years. But Clay Holmes clearly is running out of gas. And I have said it now for a while. It would be genius to put him in the bullpen this year. You want to talk about a super bullpen, and then you not only strengthen the bullpen, but you were probably going to get better outings from the likes of Sproat or McLean or both by doing that. So I think it's a win-win move, 100%, David. Absol says, not feeling confident with Juan Soto's hitting if we get in the playoffs. I mean, honestly, I feel that if we make the playoffs, that is where Juan Soto will turn it on. And I have no reason to believe that because it looks bad. It does look bad. I know the numbers are there, but it just doesn't look good if you watch Juan Soto on a daily basis. But if anything, if there was any time that Juan Soto would be able to flip that switch, I think it would be in the playoffs, knowing that he didn't have his typical impactful, consistent Juan Soto-like regular season that he is accustomed to having. So I actually would go the opposite way of you, Absol, and say, hey, come playoff time, brand new season, if there's anybody that I think could turn it on, it would be Juan Soto. But again, hey, we got to get there. Today was a good day, getting a game on the Phillies, stayed a game ahead of the Reds, but we still got to get there. We ain't out of the woods yet, and we're going to get into that in a little bit here, because as nice as tonight's win was, it's all about what happens after this now. It is all about how they follow it up throughout the rest of this week. Caden says, hey, big night for Pete Pete, do you think this will spark something for the Mets? And you don't have to, but I just started a channel. Do you think you could shout it out? If so, it's ZK Edits. All right, everybody, check out ZK Edits. That is Caden's channel. He is doing edits on there, I'm assuming. 100%, man. That's awesome. Good for you. I hope this is going to be a game that is going to get the Mets to break out. It is the perfect type of formula for a game that you would think would have them break out, where you have 6 home runs from 4 different players, and you're just absolutely rocking Spencer Strider for 8 runs and the Braves pitching staff for 13 on 6 bombs. I mean, there's no other way, better way really, to try to get the whole lineup going again than the night that the Mets just had. So I hope that's the case. And I guess I'll jump the gun here early a little bit. Now the Mets need to go out and sweep the Braves. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because the Mets sweeping the Braves, like, that's hilarious. They never do that. Are you kidding me? The Braves have Carlos Carrasco pitching tomorrow. Carlos Carrasco and his ERA above 6, the guy who started the year with the Yankees, was sent to the Braves or picked up on waivers after being DFA'd, and has spent a good chunk of this season in the minor leagues. And then it's Bryce Elder and his ERA over 6 on Thursday. Meanwhile, the Mets will have David Peterson tomorrow, and they will have Kodai Senga on Thursday. There is no reason why the Mets should not sweep the Braves after tonight's win. And I thought tonight, if any of these 3 games in this series, would be the most difficult with Strider on the mound, a guy that has historically pitched very well against us, obviously one of the better starting pitchers in all of baseball. And the Mets scored 8 runs off of him, hit 3-4 home runs off of this dude. He looked like a broken man walking off that mound tonight after the 4th inning. So if the Mets could get this win tonight, I thought there's no reason why, if this team wants to be in the playoffs, they shouldn't be able to sweep the Braves in the next 2 games of this series, given the pitching matchups, given how poorly the Braves have been playing this year. If every other team in baseball can figure out how to beat Atlanta, I don't know why the Mets can't. And hopefully this is the start of that. Back to the chat here. Omar Nunez, Holmes just doesn't throw enough strikes to go over 5. Same with Sanger. Yeah, I mean, Holmes, it's like he is just hovering around the strike zone the entire time, and the book is out on Clay Holmes. He does not throw a lot of strikes, throws a lot of nasty looking pitches, but people are able to lay off of it. 100% with you there, Omar. I just think he's out of gas. I just think he's become a little too much of a one-trick pony as far as his pitch selection, that kick change, and guys aren't falling for it anymore. And he can't just dial up that fastball to 98, 99 like he could when he's a reliever and he's only pitching one inning every 2 days or so. So 100% with you. All the more reason I think the Mets should put Holmes back into the bullpen. Sandman says, glad Mullins is awake. LOL, I like Mullins and I am rooting for him. I hope so too, man. I root for anyone in the orange and blue. But yeah, it was a slow start for Mullins, obviously, but came together a little bit there over the weekend in Milwaukee, obviously with a good night here as well. We'll see. We will see. Hopefully this is closer to what we will be getting out of Cedric Mullins and not what we got out of him over his first 6 games or so with the team. And I mean, if he can do that, great. That's what we were hoping for, an improvement over Tyrone Taylor, who has really been wearing it this year. That is what the Mets need. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing the Mets need is to get this core 4 going, is to have nights like this from Pete Alonso and from Brandon Nimmo, and to a lesser degree Juan Soto and Lindor. They didn't have the greatest of nights, but hey, they did set up that inning for Brandon Nimmo to hit the go-ahead 3-run homer immediately after Holmes blew the lead. They got a infield single, or it was a bunt single from Lindor, and then a 2-out walk from Juan Soto. That brought up Brandon Nimmo, who took Spencer Strider deep to give the Mets the 8-5 lead. So, hey, they don't all have to be home runs, but those dudes need to be impacting games. So, luckily, that was one of those nights tonight. Let me go back to the chat app. So are we ever going to have a starter go past 5 innings? It's not looking that way unless it's David Peterson. So tomorrow, very good chance that will happen because David Peterson is on the bump for the Mets. But man, this is like now over a full week where a pitcher has not gone 5 innings for the Mets outside of David Peterson. And we saw the stat the other day. It was 53 consecutive games without 2 different starters going 6 innings or more. David Peterson being the only guy during that stretch. So yeah, Peterson has been that guy that has given us length. No one else in this rotation is dependable enough to do that. And I'll be honest, even if we see Nolan McLean or Brandon Sproat on Saturday for Montes' turn in the rotation, I really highly doubt that they would even let one of those guys go past 5 innings in their first start, in their MLB debut. So unfortunately, this is the way they are built at the moment. Maybe Montas can figure something out in the bullpen. That's not going to happen, but maybe fingers crossed. I don't know. I'm feeling a little optimistic after tonight's game. Maybe the bad luck, maybe the worm has finally turned for this team. Let me go back over here. Jose Lopez Moya says, wow, the Mets actually had a blowout win, but Mendoza almost blew it when he let Holmes pitch to Olsen instead of bringing in Soto to pitch to him. Yeah, well, you would have thought that your guy staked to a 5-1 lead would be able to go out there and throw some strikes and not load the bases and give up a 2-run double to the 8-hitter, 7-hitter in the lineup and walk the 9-hitter. So yeah, I am a little upset that Mendoza didn't go to Soto there to pitch to Olsen with 2 outs before his game tying double. But also, how about some personal accountability on the side of Clay Holmes, not being able to go out there after just being handed a 5-1 lead and just throw strikes and just try to mow down this bottom of the Braves order, which, by the way, is completely unrecognizable. No Ronald Acuna at the top of the order, but at the bottom of the order, I mean, a Braves lineup that is just absolutely depleted. So I'm sorry, you could blame Mendoza for not going to Soto like he probably should have, but Clay Holmes is the one that spit the bit there, especially again against a Braves lineup that we are not all too familiar with when it comes to their 5-9 hitters. So I'm sorry, but I got to put the blame on Clay Holmes there for sure. Alvin Solano, Brett the Hitman Beatty is a Brave killer. Yeah, I guess he does hit pretty well against the Braves. It's too bad he doesn't play the Braves all the time. Otherwise, we might actually have a third baseman, right? Jose Lopez Moya says, clearly Holmes and the rest of this poor starting staff ran out of gas between the 4th and 6th inning, like an 18-wheeler running with a Volky gas tank. Have to revamp the starting staff. Hey, it is too late to revamp the starting staff, unfortunately, guys. There's just no way that they can do it now. The trade deadline is over. There are only so many prospects you can call up. I do believe we will see McLean and possibly Sproat sometime this season. I believe it's going to be McLean that gets the call on Saturday for Montas's turn in the rotation. And then maybe the Mets do decide to put Holmes in the bullpen and bring up Sproat. But guys, those dudes are on innings counts as well. Just because they didn't pitch in the majors doesn't mean they don't have an innings limit from their time in the minors. In fact, it's probably even lower than your typical major leaguer because they just haven't pitched as much in their professional careers. So as much as I would like to see those guys, let's not get this idea that they're going to be able to go 7 innings plus and give us some length in this rotation. I hope that's the case, but let's not just have unrealistic expectations. Jimmy James CEO, what happened? There he is. Howdy, nice to catch your stream post-win for a change. Could you imagine? I'm a lot less screaming, right? A lot less of this giant vein in my forehead as I'm raging about the Mets. I can't believe it. It's like I almost forgot what it's like to do a post-game stream. It's been 2 weeks, it feels like. It really actually has been. Since that game against the Giants a couple Saturdays ago, it has been a minute. Jimmy, good to see you here. Caden says, yeah, I agree with everything you've said. Thank you for shouting me out. I think Alvarez is going to get even better. Alvarez has been awesome. Alvarez has been so freaking good since getting called back from AAA. I mean, going the other way, being more patient, and then even tonight pulling that second home run. Love to see it from Francisco Alvarez. The pitch recognition is so much better than when he was here at the beginning of the season before getting sent down. So really, really happy to see it. And I've said it for so long. It just takes one of those guys, Beatty, Alvarez, Vientos, or Mauricio, to step into their form, to round into form that could totally transform and lengthen this lineup. And so far, Francisco Alvarez, since getting recalled in probably about 20 games now, maybe a little more, has been awesome. Totally night and day from his first stint in the big leagues this year. Jose says the Holmes experiment has backfired on Stingy Stern. Send it back to the bullpen. Easier for a starter to become a reliever than for a reliever to become a starter. That is true, Jose, 100%. And I agree with you, man. I think it is time to send Holmes back to the bullpen. Problem is, we are almost out of spots in the bullpen, too. We just sent Montas there now. Obviously, one of those kids is going to come up to take his spot in the rotation. And then we still got Huascar Brazaban, who is getting stretched out to hopefully be that long relief guy now and maybe piggyback off some of these starters that can't give us length right now. But he could stay in AAA. Maybe you have Holmes go to the bullpen and he can become a 6th, 7th inning guy or something like that, and have Montas remain as that long guy. But not a lot of flexibility in terms of the Mets bullpen. But I do agree that Holmes as a starter, I think it is over for now. I'd like to see them give it a shot again next season. I think it was a success this year, but now it's kind of like the law of diminishing returns. We're not getting as much out of Holmes, and it's not only affecting us as he starts games, but then it affects the bullpen because they have to come in today in the 4th inning. And then that's going to affect tomorrow's game as well. Fortunately, Justin Hageman able to soak up a couple of those those final innings after the Mets got a nice big lead in this game, but you can't win games all too often, and it sets the rest of your week up to be a disaster when you get starts like this from Clay Holmes. Let's see. Mark Beretta. Finally, Pete hooks me up on my birthday. Happy birthday, Mark. That is a good birthday gift. Pete Alonso delivering not just one and the record setter, but 2 home runs. That is awesome. Happy birthday to you, Mark. A really, really fun day for the Mets. They can't lose on your birthday. Come on, man. I know they're going to lose on my birthday. They always do. But Absol says only second game the Mets won after the trade deadline. Got to do better than this moving forward. 100%. Look, the division is not over, guys. We have 7 games with the Phillies, and I know that it seems like it is over, but it is now a 5-game lead, 7 games to go against them head-to-head. The Phillies have an easier schedule than us, no doubt, and I don't expect them to come out and hit 6 home runs every night, but the Mets still have a chance if they can get back to playing baseball they were in May. But not if they're going to continue to play the way that they did over these last couple of weeks. Tonight was a good night, but again, it's only the beginning. Go sweep Atlanta now. You have Carlos Carrasco and Bryce Elder on the mound the next 2 days, each of them with ERAs over 6. Obviously, we know all about Cookie, a retread from the 2021 team. The Mets should go out and sweep the Braves, win these next 2 games, and then we can really start talking about this team bouncing back into form. Let's see. Caden says, nice win for the Mets, but I'm going to sleep, LOL. well. Okay, good night, Gaten. Good to see you. Omar says third base has been a hole because of undefined roles for kids. When they got Mullins, Mauricio should have been sent down to playing time. Beatty probably sits tomorrow and loses his groove. Yeah, I mean, here's the problem. Nobody sees this opportunity. I know a lot of people want to talk about, this guy didn't get that opportunity and this guy didn't get this one. Well, look, Brett Beatty's had 3 years to prove that he was going to be the third baseman of this team. He has had ample opportunities. He was the first round draft pick out of high school. He was one of the top prospects in baseball for a number of years, and he just hasn't turned out. And then you also have, hey, Mark, welcome to the Keith Hernandez level of the membership. Yeah, if you guys want to join and become members of this, it's all free, of course, but it will give you some exclusive access to some of my privately released videos, other stuff that doesn't get released later into the public. So some stuff that I've heard from insiders, for example, and things like that. So definitely be sure to do that. Mark, welcome to the Keith Hernandez level of the club. But getting back to the whole idea that these guys didn't have defined roles. Look, we went into the year thinking that Mark Vientos was easily the starting third baseman, that he was going to pop 25 home runs again. It hasn't worked out. And we thought Brett Beatty would get enough playing time between third and DH and second base. He hasn't hit. Mauricio, he's shown some flashes, but guy's also coming off a torn ACL, hasn't played pro ball in a year and a half. So it is what it is in terms of that, but I think there will be some major shakeups between that young core going into the offseason. Acuna, Vientos, Beatty, and Ronnie Mauricio. I think Mauricio is probably their favorite of the bunch, so I would not be surprised if Brett Beatty and or Mark Vientos, and you could even throw Acuna in there, are not on this roster heading into 2026. Jose says, where are those so-called Mets fans who didn't want Pete back but wanted Christian Walker? Where would the Mets be without Pete? Well, I don't think we'd be in second place. That's for sure. The Marlins might have caught up to us so far, but yeah, Christian Walker has been a disaster in Houston. I just hope that the Mets are going to be able to lock Pete up and keep him well beyond just that club or that player option for 2026. It looks like he's going to probably opt out of it. We'll see what the market looks like, but hopefully the Mets are able to find a way to keep Pete Alonso in a Mets uniform for the rest of his career. Mark says, sorry, joined at the cheaper level, but times are rough. Keep up the great content. Let's go Mets. Mark, I appreciate that, man. I'm going to look into that. I haven't actually looked at that member pricing and everything like that in a long time, so let me double check that. I thought everything is free there, but let me take a look at that for you after this. Guys, be sure to leave this video a like. We're going to wrap this one up very shortly here. It has been a long night here, and we've got some busy times ahead here in the coming week, but leave this video a like. Sound off. How are you feeling about the Mets? Does this change how you're feeling about them? I mean, for me, I need to go see them now go double down. I need to see them go out and win tomorrow against Carlos Carrasco, go put up another huge offensive performance, get a good start from David Peterson, and then go for the jugular on Thursday and get the sweep, especially against Elder, who is having a really poor season, just like so many other players on the Braves right now. That is what I am looking for. That is what I am hoping for, and I think they're capable of doing it, and we'll see. Philly will still be playing Cincinnati tomorrow. That'll be the finale of that series. Let's actually go over here. Nope, not quite there. That's how I got in trouble, because I was trying to play that Pete Alonso video for you guys full screen to open the previous stream, and that's why it all fizzled out there. But good night for the Mets. 16 hits, 13 runs, all of those coming on 2 outs. Gregory Soto ends up getting the win as he's able to clean up that 4th inning and put it to bed against Atlanta. And then the Mets come surging back. They score in 6 straight innings, back-to-back games where they have scored in 5 consecutive innings. Of course, Sunday, we know that didn't hold up for them, but fortunately tonight, 13 runs was enough. Let's go to the box score really quick. Lindor with the base hit. It was a bunt single, but that set things in motion for Juan Soto to draw the walk, and then it was Brandon Nimmo with the 3-run homer to stake the Mets to an 8-5 lead. Pete, of course, 3 for 5 base hit plus his 2 home runs, and the record breaker, Jeff McNeil, man, he hit into some bad luck. Did you see that first at bat he had? A couple laser line drives. One just goes foul, another is right at the Atlanta outfielder, so a tough 0 for 4 for him. Marte with 2 hits, Mullins with 2 hits, Alvarez with 3, including 2 homers, and Beatty 2 for 4 with a home run of his own. And all in all, a really solid game for the Mets lineup. And then obviously really bad start for Clay Holmes. no sugarcoating it whatsoever. 5 walks. This is now what I think Gary Cohen said, 16 walks in 13 innings in his 3 starts against the Braves. The Clay Holmes kryptonite is Atlanta. He just has not pitched well against them, but Soto able to come in, clean up that 4th inning, give them a solid 5th inning, and then, hey, Justin Hageman come through with 4 scoreless innings, hitless innings, by the way, against Atlanta, and save this bullpen for the rest of the series. So really, really happy about that. Red Bear Fox in the chat, he says he's had 2 excellent months and 2 terrible months as far as Pete Alonso goes. Yeah, it's been a little up and down for sure, guys. I mean, the overall numbers are better than they were last year. The 880 OPS is obviously good. The 267 average is higher than it was last year. That's probably about where I think Pete is as a hitter, but it's been a little up and down, and that's kind of been the whole Mets lineup, obviously. Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, they have all been up and down. So it's not just Pete, it's been the whole team, and that is why they were in such a rut, and hopefully this is the beginning of them getting out of it. But guys, like I said, it's all going to depend on what they do now moving forward. Do you spit the bit? Do you lose the next game or 2, God forbid, against Atlanta in this series? Because then all the good juju from tonight's win goes completely out the window. I want the sweep. I said it. If the Mets could find a way to beat Spencer Strider tonight, that they should sweep Atlanta. And they did that in flying colors, posting 8 runs on his ass and 13 on Atlanta. And now you got Carlos Carrasco, who I can't even believe is in the league still. All around good guy. Nothing against Carlos Carrasco. He's just old as dust. And he was somehow put into the Yankees rotation this year when they suffered all those injuries this spring training. Couldn't cut it with them. Was up and down in the minor league system for them before getting DFA'd. Atlanta picked him up. Same deal, and he has an ERA over 6. And meanwhile, it's David Peterson. So we may finally get to see a Mets starter go past the 5th inning, or just even complete the 5th inning, which kind of would be a landmark achievement for this team right now based on how the starting pitching has been going. So we shall see, guys, but we will be back with another post-game stream. It'll be a little condensed one tomorrow, but we will be here to talk all about it and hopefully back-to-back wins for the Mets. But tonight, at least, they're able to end this horrible 7-game losing streak. Pete Alonso setting the record for Mets home runs as a single player with number 253, passing Darryl Strawberry. It is a really, really fun night for the Mets. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. I'm sorry, tonight is also a little bit of a shorter one, but be sure to leave this video a like. I really appreciate it, guys. Subscribe if you're not already. Daily Mets content, post-game recap after every single game, and we'll be back tomorrow with another one. But until then, thank you all. I'm Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.